And here we go. So again, I wanted to introduce Corinne Cannon of the DC Diaper Bank, and nominated for L'Oreal Woman of the Year. And so if you haven't voted yet, vote often. And let me share. Okay. Can people see my slides at this point? My desktop. All right. So, Corinne, why don't you take it away?
Okay. Well, first of all, I am so happy to be talking about volunteers. Volunteers are absolutely my favorite thing in the entire world. I think that, you know, many of us started as volunteer organizations. Many of us are still all volunteer organizations. So, you know, that we bring to this work can change thousands of things. It can really change a lot. So, I think one of the incredible things about volunteers is trying to figure out how to harness their energy and how to take a lot of passion and a lot of excitement about what you're doing in your, you know, in your local community and turn that into tangible things that volunteers can do to ease your life, you know, and to really further the mission of your organization. On that first slide, I've got a ton of pictures of our different volunteers. I think, Alex, there you go. So these are all different things that have happened because of volunteer power. Deloitte has come to play with us. Marriott has come to play with us. Some of the big corporations have come to do service days with us. We had Giving Tuesday take off because a volunteer said, hey, why aren't you doing this? And just took it and ran with it and made it incredible for us. The man in the middle there, who is moving an awesome pallet of Huggies diapers, is who we call our warehouse guru. And he's a gentleman who came in. He said, hey, I'd like to help. And I said, well, you know, what can you do? And he said, I'm not that good at many things, but I can be here. And it turns out he was the biggest liar in the entire world because he is good at absolutely everything. And about half the stuff we have in our warehouse came from Rick just talking to people and saying, hey, how about donating that to DC Diaper Bank? So we've got floor-to-ceiling industrial shelving that costs us less than $1,000 because Rick talked the ear off the guy who owned the company. And, you know, he's really changed the face for us. So when people come in and say they want to help, letting them figure out how they want to help is one of the things that we have found to be really, really useful for us. Girl Scouts and youth groups, we have had hundreds and hundreds of their little happy bodies come through, and they come with so much joy, and they come with so much excitement. And they're maybe not the most efficient volunteers, but they are some of the best volunteers we've ever had. And then there's a picture of me and my little guy up on the Wizards at our basketball team. That was another volunteer who said, hey, I've got a friend who works there. Do you want to go become a something, you know, charity of the game? And we said, yes, any chance we can get in front of people we're going to. So this is just a very small smattering of ways volunteers have helped us. But I think that what we really had to do was we had to start thinking about how we wanted to use volunteers. Unlike a lot of your organizations, we started without a space. We were partnering with our local food bank, and they were taking our diapers and they were distributing them to organizations. So we didn't actually have a place to bring people. So we had to kind of think in some different ways about how to engage volunteers and really what we wanted volunteers to do. And we got kind of sad, I think, that we weren't able to bring volunteers in. So we started kind of this vision and this dream of what it could be if we had volunteer support. So why volunteers? Just to start us off, you know, why do you need them? I think the first thing that they bring is just an incredible energy. They bring this joy to this work, and I don't know about all of you, but this is something, you know, this is my job. And some days you love your job, and some days your job is really, really hard. And when a volunteer walks into a warehouse, they're always excited to be there. Allison, would you mind clicking? You can just click all of them. There's like 5 different bullets on this one. Yeah. They also bring an incredible web of connections. The DC metro area is about 5 million people, and there is no way our little nonprofit can get the word out to 5 million people. But what we've created through our volunteer programs is what we call our army. And this is an army of people who have been in our space, who have done diaper drives for us, who have donated money, who have donated time. And we've really worked to empower them to tell our story. I'll talk a little bit more about that. But they bring this amazing web of connections. The images you have here, this little girl is Mira, and she's been doing a diaper drive for us every year on her birthday for the last 4 years, which is wonderful and incredible, and we love it. I know so many of you have families who do that. But Mira's mom took to social media, and Mira's mom got about 5 other families committed to doing it every year. And every year around her birthday, we get about $4,000 in donations from around the country, from just Mira. And then there's money that comes in from all the other drives that have gone through. And again, as a volunteer who came to our space once, I love what you're doing, I want to help, and has stayed with us, throughout all the time that we've grown. I've also got Brittany, who decided, you know what, I bet there's a lot of corporations who'd want to give to you. Let's find a way to do it. And she started just contacting restaurants and saying, hey, if you want to help out. One of the ones that she did was Chipotle. If you have Chipotle in your area, I would strongly recommend you getting in touch with them. We did a 3-hour fundraiser with them and brought in more than $4,000. So they're small things, they're small pots of money that are coming in, but they're coming in consistently, and they're not something that we're really working on. So it's been really helpful. Down in the corner, you've got Marriott. Again, that was a mom who came in with her daughter's brownie troop and said, you know what, I think that we can help you out. And they came back for a day of service, and their digital communications team is actually now revamping our website. So all of these connections, these webs of connections, you never know who's walking in the door. And what they can kind of do for you. The joke that kind of our longer-term volunteers say about me is that I always say, hi, I'm Corinne. It's so nice to meet you. How in the world can I use you? Because I'm always that way, and I'm asking our volunteers to think in that way. How can they give back? What can they do to help the work that we're doing? And I'm very blatant about it. I say, how can I do it? How can you help us? And people are always very willing to give. The woman in the corner there, she is a employee at Discovery Communications, the amazing people who bring you Shark Week. And again, she came in, volunteered, and said, I'm sure there's a way we can get involved in this in a deeper way, and they did. So that's kind of why we think about volunteers. They come with a web of connections. They come with different perspectives. We do this all the time. We get blind to it sometimes, so they come with different ideas. And they're also, volunteers can be incredibly flexible. If you need somebody on a Tuesday morning at 7 a.m. or a Sunday at 5 or, anytime you need somebody, there's probably a volunteer who's dying to get out and help you. I also think one thing to keep in mind is that there's no money outlay, but there is definitely a cost. Volunteers are not a free resource, and I think if you go into it thinking they're a free resource, you're going to be sadly mistaken about that. So visualize the volunteer dream. Allison, would you mind clicking ahead and just putting all those bullets up? As I said, we were not, we weren't in a space at first. So we had a lot of time to kind of think about what we wished volunteers could do, what we thought that they'd be great at doing, what we didn't want them to do. And there's definitely some monetary things that we don't have volunteers do, and some privacy issues with some of our organizations and the families that we serve that we don't have our volunteers do. But everything else, we kind of said, yes, we'd love to have volunteers, in here. And also kind of thinking about where and how you find them, how they find out about your work, what can motivate them to get involved. And we spent a lot of time thinking about who our ideal volunteer was, and really what we saw them doing with us. And then that next slide, I've got our volunteer dream. This is really what we wanted to have happen. We wanted volunteers who really felt like they were a part of this work, that they were influencing the organization, that they were changing things, that they were a part of this. And what we think about empowering people. And again, when we talk about the ambassador part, and I'll get into a little more detail on how we do that. But really having them be the lifeblood of the organization. We also wanted to do family-friendly volunteering, which is not something I think a lot of organizations do. I don't know if any of you guys do it, but if we do, if you all do, we can definitely talk during the question time if that's works for you all. But we found that there weren't a lot of organizations in the metro area where you could bring your child to volunteer. You can sometimes bring 10-year-olds and up, or you can bring, teenagers to volunteer. But there weren't a lot of places you could bring a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old or a 5-year-old. So we wanted that to be a part of it too. We also wanted to increase our physical footprint in the region. As I said, DC is 5 million people. The metro area is, and again, we can yell and shout about what we're doing, but we need that army. We need other people out there who are expanding our reach. And then finally, we really wanted to open up the conversation about parenting and poverty. What does it mean to not have what you need for your child? And we really thought that volunteering has the gateway to doing that, as a way to start that conversation in a non-threatening way, in a way that families can understand and that individuals can understand as well. That's what we wanted to have happen. And then if you go to the next slide, this is what we have created. So these 5 programs or these 5 volunteer areas are the primary things that we do. We have the Ambassador Program, which are individuals who opened up their homes to be diaper drop locations. We have family-friendly warehouse volunteers and all ability levels group volunteering. We have what we call wine Wednesdays, because when in doubt, alcohol, and it becomes more fun. And then we've got volunteer staff roles. These are enhanced volunteers for a little while, and they have enhanced roles with us. And then committee structures all volunteer as well. So we'll go into each of them. If you could click to the next slide on us, and we'll get the Ambassador Program. So the Ambassador Program is possibly one of my favorite things. So when we started out, again, I think as many of you guys said, DC Diaper Bank started in my basement. And if you were coming from 30 miles away, which is not that unusual in a city as large as ours, or metro area as large as ours, you might want to donate that extra pack of diapers. You might want to do a diaper drive and bring them over. But 30 miles is a long time to drive if you've got little kids or if you've got a job or you've got other things going on. So we thought, we need a way for people to donate diapers in their neighborhood. We need someplace you can go that's 10 minutes away or 5 minutes away, and you can drop off diapers. So we started this about 15 months ago, and we now have 50 families and businesses throughout the metro region. And what they do is they open up their doors. If they're a business, they open up their doors during their business hours, and they have a box with a sign on that says, official DC diaper drop spot. If they're a home, they've got a yard sign in their yard that says that they're official diaper drop spot. And what they do is they accept diapers, they accept donations, and then they act as our voice in their communities and in their networks. So we provide them with a toolkit of plug-and-play emails and talking points and ideas for locations to go to and talk about what we're doing. And they become the champions of this. I mean, they become the people who go to the local church or the local jamboree or the school or their office, and they say, hey, do you know about DC Diaper Bank? Hey, do you know about what they're doing? Hey, here's an easy way to get involved. And they really become our extension and kind of our hand into the larger community. What they have done for us, I can't even begin to explain everything they have done for us. They've done hundreds and hundreds of diaper drives. They've brought new agency partners to us, and they brought in volunteer groups, corporate connections, funding. I always say it's not 6 degrees. I mean, it's definitely not 6 degrees in DC. I'm sure it's not 6 degrees in other places too, but it's not 6 degrees of separation. It's about 1.5. And so the ambassadors make it even smaller than that. They make this connection that we have, in the community a lot stronger, a lot more solid. One of my favorite things that happened was I was at a grocery store, and I saw a woman, and she had a DC Diaper Bank pin on her jacket. And she saw me looking at it, and she said, let me tell you about this amazing nonprofit. And she spieled me. She went into a whole thing. And her messaging was consistent, and it was spot on, and it was great, and I said, thank you so much, and, and walked away and didn't tell her who it was. But it's that kind of personality who our ambassadors are. They're people who jump at the chance to talk about what we're doing. And then they've also brought in money. The other thing that we charge them with doing is, we have an active listserv with them, and so we charge them every month. We are trying to get 100 diaper drives. Can you help us out? We're trying to get 20 more recurring donors in the next 4 days. Can you help us out? And they push it out on Facebook. They push it out on social media. They email friends. They really are the army that keeps us going in some ways. Okay, next slide, please. So family-friendly and all-ability level volunteering. So this is something, again, that was part of our volunteer dream. We thought, I'm a mom, and, a lot of the reason I got into this work was wanting to help other mothers. And I thought, what would I want to be able to do if I was going to volunteer? I want to be able to bring my children. I want my children to feel comfortable and safe. I want them to be welcomed into a space. So that's what we've tried to do. We have created in our warehouse a play space, a play area for the kids, and they can come as young as we had one at our birthday party on Sunday that was 5 days old. So you can bring babies in, you can bring big guys in. You all know that wrapping diapers and inventorying diapers and doing this is really, really ability level flexible. You can have a 5-year-old helping you count, or you can have a 3-year-old helping to put labels on. You can have, kids doing lots and lots of different jobs. So we had to kind of change our expectations a little bit for family volunteers. Family volunteers come when they're able to. They come between nap time. They used to leave early sometimes. And it's not always this is the most efficient volunteering. But, someone actually started thinking that it's not a very efficient thing to have 10, 11-year-old kids in here. And I thought it's only not efficient if you're thinking in the very short term. If we're thinking about creating this community where, children feel that volunteering is a normal part of what you do, and taking care of all children is a normal part of what you do, then it's the most efficient thing in the world that we ever could be doing. So we had to keep that in our mind, as we were going through. We also found that families are really, really hungry to talk to their kids about needs. But they don't have a lot of safe outlets to do it. That when we talk about poverty issues, they are very politicized, and that's, I think, especially true in the metro region we live in. And they wanted to be able to talk to their kids about getting back, and they wanted to be able to show them in a potential way. So we're really filling, we're filling the need that has been there for a little while. Our family-friendly volunteer hours fill up almost within hours of being posted. So they go very, very quickly. And they've been, just an incredible way for us to talk to families who want to support us and can sometimes support with time, but oftentimes support with time and money. The other thing about it is that we realize that there aren't a lot of third spaces. There's kind of, it's not a restaurant, it's not a home, it's an in-between space. It's where you can go and meet strangers who you might connect with and you might, find some commonalities with. The picture you have here is of Henry, and Henry in the first one is with his dad, Jonathan. That's when he was about 4 months old, and that was the first time they came to Warehouse to volunteer with us. And Jonathan actually deployed to Afghanistan about 3 weeks after this picture was taken. And the picture on the right is his mom, Miranda, and Henry on his 1-year anniversary of volunteering with us. And Miranda came every Tuesday to our warehouse while Jonathan was deployed. Still comes every Tuesday, but Jonathan was sent back. And one of the things that she says is that this became another home for her. It became a place where she could go and she could check in. It became a community that she felt connected to. And she's like, and it became something that I could go and I could do and I could feel good about no matter what else is going on in my life. And we've got a lot of volunteers like that, volunteers who are coming in on a regular basis and doing that. Insurance issues is one thing to keep in mind. You want to make sure that you have the proper insurance if you have volunteers coming in, particularly if you have young volunteers coming in, and that you're making sure your warehouse space is safe for little ones. There's definitely some areas of the warehouse that volunteers are not allowed into, and definitely baby volunteers are not allowed into. So that brings us to the next one. That's true, yeah. Volunteer staff roles. So as we've gotten bigger, we have found that as we've grown and the volunteers who have been with us for a little while have grown, we found that they really want to get involved and engaged in different ways. And so we now have 3 positions who are volunteers who have been with us for over a year. And Rick is our warehouse manager, the guy you saw with the Huggies diapers in the first slide. And we have a volunteer coordinator who does all of our volunteer communications, and then a social media coordinator as well. And these are people who walked in our door and didn't know who we were and really said, I love this, I love what you're doing, I want to do more. And that, having these volunteer positions, having these volunteer staff roles essentially, has enabled us to get a lot further because it's taken some of the day-to-day off of my plate. And it's also brought in people that we weren't even thinking about because these volunteer staff have connections to other people. Okay, and next and last one is committees. So right now, all of the current members on our committee started as warehouse volunteers. And I think for me, that kind of speaks volumes about how we bring volunteers in and how we kind of talk about what we're doing with them. I think that what it does for us is it gives us kind of a preview of how that committee member will interact. So if we see a volunteer, for 3 months and we see them interacting with other volunteers and interacting with us, we have a sense of who they are and how they're going to act on a committee and whether they're going to fit with that committee culture. So we have a preview of them. It also creates a pool of potential board members. And I think that that's kind of invaluable of, again, knowing how someone's going to act, knowing what resources they bring to the table, and how they're going to interact with everyone around you. So the big question that I think people always ask when I say that we are an all-volunteer organization. Allison, would you put us to the next slide? An all-volunteer organization. We will soon become paid staff in January, but right now we're still all-volunteer. Aren't volunteers free? I think that there's this idea out there that they don't cost anything, and that's why they're a good thing. The quick answer is yes, they don't technically cost you anything, but they're not really free. Volunteer care and feeding takes a lot of time and energy. It's entirely worth it, but it does take a lot of time and energy, and you want to go into that knowing it, and you want to think about what are some easy ways you can get your volunteers involved in this process, but knowing you're going to be committing a good amount of time to them. So we have to click the next slide. I've got some ideas on how to motivate and kind of engage people. We found that one of the best things we can do is share information. So helping your volunteers love what they do with you and love what you do is the thing that we spend a lot of time on with our volunteers, with our messaging to all of our audiences, really making them a part of the organization's story and the work. So every single time a volunteer session starts, whether it's with 6 people or 30 people, whether it's with a group or it is with individual families, no matter who it is, we start with the same little blurb. And we start, part of that is telling the story of DC Diaper Bank, how we got started. And then we always say, we are an all-volunteer organization. The only reason we're able to do this is because you were here today, spending your time with us and donating your energy to this cause. So thank you for helping families. You want to make these volunteers part of the organization themselves, even if you're not all volunteer, a lot of you are volunteer-powered. We're volunteer-powered. That's how we do it. So you want to give them you want to give them the consistent message. You want them to know the story and know it well and feel empowered to talk about it, and also make them part of that story. Also quantify their impact. On the right here, we did a little infographic about our first year in the warehouse. And one of the things that we wanted to highlight front and center was that in 1 year, we've had 1,200 volunteers come through our doors. And they have accomplished all of these things. So at the end of the volunteer session, after they've bundled their diapers and inventoried, we always say, today you guys bundled 7,000 diapers, and that's going to help X number of babies. Thank you so much. That they really know what their time and their energy was worth. And then celebrate their accomplishments. I mean, we use our social media as a way to really celebrate our volunteers, to talk about them, to do shout-outs to them, just to really tell them how much we love what it is that they're doing. And then on that next slide, we've got the super simple things that we do that we think really, really add up and make a kind of a welcoming volunteer experience. Ask for and acting on opinions and suggestions and ideas. We've got a wall in our warehouse, and it is a bulletin board that just says, it says on top, here's what we're thinking. And it is the graphics we're thinking of designing. It's T-shirts we're thinking of doing. It is partners we're looking at working with. It's ideas for fundraisers in the future. And we ask people to write on them. What do you think? Is this going to work? Do you agree? It does a couple of things. It engages you in the process of what we're doing. It lets you in our day-to-day, our nitty-gritty, which volunteers really want to know about. They want to know how you're run. They want to know how much rent costs. They want to know how much it costs to do the diapers. They want to know how many babies you're helping. They want to get into the details. If you let them into the details, if you share that information and you act on their ideas, they're engaged. They're invested in what it is that you're doing. We also really try to create a welcoming space. I think juice boxes and muffins really matter, especially if you're doing family-friendly volunteering. We've got a nursing chair. We've got a height chair. We've got a refrigerator, and a ton of toys, and then snacks for people who are coming in. It sounds silly, but it really changes the environment if you have a welcoming place and you have, items for your volunteers. We actually had one volunteer on Wine Wednesdays. Or did I talk about Wine Wednesdays? I didn't. Well, we do Wine Wednesdays, where we have on Wednesday evenings we invite people to bring a bottle of wine or their winiest thing that happened that week, and come on in and pack diapers with us. It ends up being primarily adults. Sometimes some babies come, but primarily adults. But that was one where volunteers said, hey, I'd love to make dinner for everyone that's coming. The last time we had it, we had incredible risotto and wine, and we bundled and we talked, and it really became a great session where people talked about other ways they could get involved in this work. Another thing that we pour money into, and I encourage everybody to pour money into, is swag. So we do T-shirts and car magnets and buttons and stickers and tattoos, and if you name it, we could probably slap our logo on it. And that's very, very intentional. You see that picture of Regan wearing the DC Diaper T-shirt. She loves that T-shirt. She wears it all the time. And she goes to places I will never go to. So you're marketing. You're getting your name out there. And people ask her about it. The car magnets, which we just started plastering all over our ambassadors' cars. People come up to them in parking lots and they say, what is that? So, spend some money on that. Spend some time on the flag. And then stay in contact. We spend a lot of time talking to our volunteers. So we have a volunteer coordinator, and he sends emails to everyone when they first come in. We send an email saying, here's your reservation. We're looking forward to seeing you. Here's some other ways to get involved. We send a reminder email. We send a thank you so much for coming. We had a blast with you. Here's how many people you helped. Won't you find some other ways to engage with us? Here are some ways to do it. And then, individual emails. If we've got volunteers we see over and over again, I'll send a quick email that says, it was great seeing you in the warehouse. We love how much you are jumping into this and diving into this work. What else do you want to do? Ask them a question and saying, you seem really engaged in this. How else can we get you involved in this? Because we really need you involved in this. We also make sure everyone's on our e-newsletter, that they get our appeal letters, that we encourage everyone to be on Facebook and social media and Twitter, all those different avenues of connecting with us and talking to us. And then finally, I think that one thing that I was very worried about early on with volunteers was I wanted them to think we were a legit organization, and we were a huge, big organization. We're not a legit organization. We're grassroots. And we try and act grassroots. That's who we are. And so when you come to the warehouse, chances are you might hold my 18-month-old while I'm on a conference call. Or you might help somebody diaper their baby while they're passing diapers. Or if you're coming to volunteer with us, You might be doing everything from planning our web redesign to doing accounting with us to cleaning out the trash at the bathroom. Like, you know, let people know that we need help. You need help on all elements of this. And what we have found is that they want to engage. They really, really are hungry to do stuff. So you can't be afraid to ask people to get involved. So that's all I got, Allison. I'd love to talk to people who are on the call about what they're doing that works, or see if they have any questions.
Well, let me get everyone off mute, including myself.
Okay.
And I see that we have a question from, sorry, what's your question?
Hey, it's Corinne Cannon. I'm just curious if you're using any kind of volunteer tracking software, or are you just doing it all like with an Excel spreadsheet?
Yeah, great question. We do not use any volunteer tracking software. We do all of it through Excel. It's pretty easy. If you look on our website, you'll see that we just have now 10 days a month. So once those days are full, those amounts we have been using Volunteer Match and letting people simply sign up, and we found that we didn't get we got a lot of errors that happened. And because we are so dependent on our volunteers coming for bundling and the inventory, we wanted to make sure that we were really knew those people. And what we found was that when they weren't signing themselves up, when they had to email us and ask to be signed up and we had to email them back, it did two things. It meant they actually came, or they would email us and say, hey, I can't come. You know, something has come up instead of just not showing. And it also opens up that conversation. You know, they're not signing up on just a site, they're talking to an actual person. A little more time intensive, but again, we have got a volunteer coordinator. So we have someone who loves doing that and has the time to do that.
I'm sorry, I put everyone else on mute, but if you have a question, if you could raise your hand in that little chat box. Any more questions?
Let me throw it up. Are there things that you all are doing that you're having giant success with, and other diaper banks to do well with? Yeah, okay. Well, I am happy to, if people have questions, I email them on the next slide. I am happy to talk to you about this. I think we have had just such a wonderful experience. And I continue to be blown away at the ideas they have and the ways they want to engage in this work. We recently just had our 4th birthday on Sunday, and it was all the committee has organized it, and it was an all volunteer run party. And I had one woman who said, you know what, we need sponsors to bring in money for this. And she went out and she dreamt up this, and she got us sponsors. And it's that sort of thing. It's really empowering people to think about how they can help, and then letting them do the helping.
Any other questions? Well, Corinne, thank you so much. This was a really wonderful presentation. I came with a great idea, but everyone else did as well. Able to in late or weren't able to get on to the conference, or if you know someone who missed the webinar but wanted to join, we will have the recorded session up on the web in the next couple days. And again, Corinne, thank you so much. And if you have any questions, if anybody has any questions for Corinne, I'm happy to pass them on to her, and I'm sure she's also more than happy to take your email questions. So thank you, everyone, for joining this webinar, and we will talk with you next month.
Thanks, Allison.